We're building our game plan on both sides of the ball for the New Orleans Saints to keep their playoff hopes alive with a win at home against the Carolina Panthers. And WWL's Doug Mouton joins to talk about the players that are coming back healthy for New Orleans and how they'll look to deal around the loss of Erik McCoy. We got all that and a little bit of lanyard for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering the New Orleans Saints. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks as always for making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget we're free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube as well. And I am your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, Canal Street Chronicles, Locked On NFL, and here with you every single Monday through Friday on Locked On Saints. And as we get started today, I want to open up first and foremost by saying Happy New Year. Hope you have a safe one and a healthy one as we turn the calendar into 2022. And even as the calendar turns, the 2021-2022 NFL season continues to roll along. And the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, on the 2nd, will face the Carolina Panthers at home. The Saints right now with a 2-5 home record versus a 5-3 away record, but they look to, and Quan Alexander talked about this in his presser, kind of change their luck at home a little bit. And so we're going to talk about how they can do that. We'll go offense first, then defense before we're joined by Doug Mouton, who's going to talk to us a bit about who he expects to stand in place of Erik McCoy and other stories as well. But I want to start over on the offensive side in building our game plan for the New Orleans Saints to topple the Carolina Panthers. Just as a reminder, winning out is what you're hoping for the New Orleans Saints. You'd love to get a loss from San Francisco. That's the easiest path in if the Saints win out. There are some other scenarios as well. If the Saints can't win out, all of that could potentially get them into the playoffs. But that's the easiest way, right? The sort of path of least resistance, if you will. You want the Saints to win out, though, and they'll want to start that this Sunday against Carolina. And I think that there are three key pieces for the New Orleans Saints offense to be able to help to solidify that win. We know the defense can play very well, but the offense has been pretty stagnant over the course of the season, honestly. And so when you look at the Saints offense, here are the three things I think they need to get right. First of all, they have to make that Carolina Panthers defense account for Taysom Hill as a threat. Secondly, they'll have to attack the sidelines and attack the secondary of a weakened Carolina defense. And finally, get the ball to players on the perimeter and allow them to make plays in space. So now let's break each of those down. So let's start off on the idea of making the defense respect Taysom Hill as a threat. This is huge for the New Orleans Saints. And honestly, it's really kind of their identity right now, right? Their identity should be the threat of the backfield. Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram. Now, it's hard, I understand, when you're dealing with 72% eight-man boxes or 8 men sort of defenders in the immediate area of the line of scrimmage on the defensive side. 60% plus last week, 72% the week before that. New Orleans Saints have been dealing, and Alvin Kamara have been dealing with 8 defenders in the box between the tackles, close to the line of scrimmage over the course of the past few weeks, and it's reflected, right? I mean, Alvin Kamara is still averaging around 4 yards per carry, which is great over the course of the last few weeks. But what really helps New Orleans is when the defense can, stack up the box as much as they want, but if they don't know who to really key in on any particular situations, or the New Orleans Saints can create some confusion in the backfield because of the fact you have to respect Taysom Hill, then it opens up the run game for the other, ball carriers. And it opens up the run game for Taysom Hill too, because eventually you get to reverse that, change some tendencies in the second half, things like that, and then you can get Taysom Hill rolling, kind of like what we saw against the Jets a couple of weeks ago. So for me, it's the zone reads, it's the play action, it's the play action rollouts, it's the QB powers, the things that they love to run, the designed runs with Taysom Hill that will start to set all of that up. And then you can start mixing in the other pieces. The Saints don't run a lot of RPOs, but if you can, get 1 or 2 in there, then that could open up something for Alvin Kamara if you get the right read. And so I think that becomes a big part of it. You have to make the Carolina Panthers defense, which is hampered and very weak at this moment, and could be even weaker than expected, depending upon who stays on or comes off the COVID-19 reserve list. You have to be able to make them account for Taysom Hill as effectively a 6th skill position player or non-quarterback, non-offensive lineman, right? you have to make them account for him as a playmaker. And in order to do that, you got to use him as a playmaker as well and allow him to use his legs. So I think that becomes a big part of this game. And then that ends up helping to open up some other things. It's going to be a little bit challenging. We know Erik McCoy was just recently added to the COVID reserve list. My expectation, and we'll talk to Doug Mouton about his in a little bit, but my expectation is that Brother Martin alum Will Clapp will step into that center role, leaving Cesar Ruiz at right guard. My apologies. Got my left and right confused. At right guard. But I think that Will Clapp is going to be the guy there who has a ton of chemistry with Taysom Hill. So I think that that level of comfort does end up meaning something, even if it isn't necessarily between a quarterback and a skill position player, a quarterback and a center. It's nice to have that sort of communication and trust there. The next piece that we talked about was attacking the Carolina's weakened defense. So the Carolina's defense is dealing with a lot of injuries, particularly in the secondary. CJ Henderson's dealt with injury. JC Horn's out for the season. Very unlikely Stephon Gilmore ever plays for the Carolina Panthers again. If you heard our crossover Thursday with Julian Council of Locked on Panthers, he talked about that. Matt Rule is saying that he doesn't expect Stephon Gilmore to play this weekend against the Saints. So that means you're dealing with a bunch of backups when it comes to that secondary and a defense that is being right now kind of dealing with its COVID surge, right? As every team begins to, you're seeing Minnesota start to deal with it right now as well. The Carolina Panthers right now with Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick and Shaq Thompson, these guys that are very important to their front seven, front six, are currently on that COVID-19 list. So even if they're cleared under the new protocols to play, they're coming in without practice. And that ends up making a big difference. So you have to attack this week in defense. And if Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick aren't on the field, it gives you an opportunity, even with a hampered offensive line, to create some time and buy some time for your quarterback to be able to make some throws. I don't think he's got to make a lot, right? I think you want to keep Taysom sort of in that place that the Saints have been most comfortable all season, which is between 20 and 30 throws. That's fine. And then you end up being able to take advantage of what you can in the secondary and from your pass catchers. The player that I watch the most here, Marquez Callaway's had a great couple of weeks here recently. But the player that I really watch here is Juwan Johnson. Coming back off the COVID reserve list, the Saints like to get an early idea of how teams play against Juwan Johnson. Do they treat him as a wide receiver or do they treat him as a tight end? If they treat him as a tight end, it means they come out in more base packages or 3 linebackers with 4 defensive backs. If they treat him as a wide receiver, then they'll come out in those nickel packages with the 5th defensive back, a little bit lighter in the box with only 2 linebackers. So if they end up, because of personnel, having to treat him one way or another, it dictates how you utilize Juwan Johnson. Do you utilize him as a blocker against a lighter defense that's come out in nickel packages, which opens up the run game for Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram? Or do you utilize him as a pass catcher against base defenses while they're willing to treat him as a tight end and then be able to use his athleticism, length, and stride against some of those slower, less athletic linebackers? That's going to be a big piece that I'm going to be watching. Marquez Callaway should have another nice day, but Juwan Johnson is the player that I'm most looking forward to hitting the field on Sunday. And then finally, get the ball to players on the perimeter and allow them to make plays in space. This one is really important to me, especially if Deonte Harris is back and off the COVID reserve list. He's served his suspension, his 3-game suspension. So if he's off the COVID reserve list, he should play this weekend, and he would be a big part of this. Getting him the ball on screens, tunnel screens, utilizing him out of the backfield, having him come across with jet sweep motions, things like that. You can also say the same for Alvin Kamara, especially if you're making the defense account for Taysom Hill as a passer and you can run a play action to Alvin Kamara and then dump it off to him in the flats over on near the sideline off the perimeter and allow him to just create after that. I think that becomes a huge part of what can be successful for the New Orleans Saints. So that's how I build this offensive game plan for the Saints to get a win against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. Next, we're going to take a look at the defense and why one player can make all the difference for the New Orleans Saints. We got that coming up for you as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Earlier this week, when I was talking about our friends over at Built.com, the best tasting protein bars out there, Built Bar, I used the word deliciosity. I'm here to use the word deliciosity again, because that is the only word I can think of that appropriately exudes my excitement around Built Bars. Best tasting protein bar on the market, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Talking about 7, 8, 9 grams of sugar with 17, 18 grams of protein. You like fruit and chocolate? That's fine. They've got strawberry, raspberry, orange, all covered in 100% chocolate. You got a sweet tooth? You want those sweet flavors? Cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie, mint brownie, salted caramel, all also covered in 100% chocolate. In fact, every flavor of Built Bar is covered in 100% chocolate. So go and check them out. See for yourself. Go ahead and grab a sample box. You can try as many different flavors as you want, or you can even build your own and choose up to 3 different flavors. And I'm going to help you out here, give you a little promo code so you get 15% off. That's going to be with the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15. It's going to give you 15% off of your next order. Doesn't matter if it's your first or your next. Just use that promo code LOCKED15 at built.com. All right, family, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Thanks as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day. Make sure you're checking out the ultimate college football playoff preview 2021 this week, giving you everything you need around the local experts, betting advice, as well as draft analysis. You can find it all today over on the Ultimate College Football Playoff Preview 2021 feed. Just search that in your favorite podcast provider. We'll also have a national championship game preview coming up on Tuesday, so make sure you keep an eye out for that as well. All right, so we're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints up against the Carolina Panthers. We're going to talk about the defense now. We talked about the keys for the offense. We're going to be joined by Doug Mouton of WWL here in just a moment, but I want to go through the defense here. And there are 3 keys for me when it comes to defense as well. One of which I've harped on all week, and I will harp on again, is pass rush. The other of which is takeaways. We'll talk about kind of the reverse, the kind of flip that the Saints have had so far this season. And then finally, I want to talk about one key player that can make all the difference for the New Orleans Saints. So let's start off with the pass rush. I've gone through this a bunch so far this week, but let me not, sugarcoat it at all. The pass rush is what the New Orleans Saints need to win this game. And over the course of the past few games, you've seen good things from guys like Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan, David Onyemata having sort of getting his legs under him finally after, missing the first 6 games of the season, of course, which slows things down a bit, and the Saints have also gotten a little bit more exotic with the blitzes they've been able to put together, the pass rush they've been able to put together. You didn't see that very much against Miami because of the dwindling numbers, but now you've seen both Jalen Holmes as well as Carl Granderson come off the COVID reserve list. So that means that you have all of your edge rushers as opposed to just 2, like you saw against the Dolphins last week. And even still, those 2 were very impactful. And don't forget, you might see a rookie left tackle in Brady Christensen, who's very talented out of BYU. The Saints liked him a lot in the draft. And so even though he's a good player, though, you're going to get a rookie very likely starting at left tackle. You're also dealing with other injuries and things like that on this Carolina Panthers offensive line. Taylor Moton versus Cam Jordan is going to be a lot of fun to watch. But those 2 guys, the bookends, Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan, have been outstanding. And then the rotational player that is Carl Granderson has been helpful as a change of pace guy. Love seeing all of the sort of NASCAR packages they put together against Tampa Bay. I think you'll see that more this week. Why is it important for the New Orleans Saints to do all of that? Well, Sam Darnold, 44.7% completion percentage and a 45.2 passer rating when under pressure this season. 1 touchdown to 6 interceptions. So definitely one to watch out for. And one of those interceptions came against the New Orleans Saints as well. Speaking of interceptions, I want to talk about takeaways for the New Orleans Saints defense here. So the Saints kind of started off hot when it came to the takeaway category, particularly interceptions, but then have cooled off, not necessarily gotten cold, but have cooled off over the course of the past few games. You look at the first 5 matchups for the Saints this season, 9 of their interceptions during that time and a 71 passer rating on average allowed over the course of those first 5 games. Over the course of the last 5 for the Saints, which includes some key injuries and things like that, players being out, but we've seen that all season for the Saints, only 5 interceptions and a 78 passer rating on average allowed. So it's kind of been the reverse of what you've seen with the pass rush, which has gotten hotter over the course of the past 5 games. The interceptions, the takeaways have gotten a little bit colder over the past 5 games. The big difference has been how effective that pass rush has been and also generating some turnovers, right? We've seen some forced fumbles, some takeaways, some things like that in the backfield, as well as, scrambling Tom Brady's, things like that. So of the Saints' 36 sacks over the first 15 games of the season, they averaged only 2.4 over the course of the first few games. Now they're averaging 3.3 over the course of the past 3 games. So that's huge. That's really, really important because that's nearly an extra sack and a more efficient pass rush per game here recently. And so that's part of what has kind of helped to cover up the fact that the Saints haven't taken the ball away much, but you want to see them take the ball away much. Like you'd like to see both of these things get going, just like we saw late last season and early last season as well. So that would be a big key for me as well, creating those turnovers to give the offense some additional opportunities. And especially if the offense can hit the 3 keys that we talked about earlier, then all of a sudden you want to give them more possession so that they can continue to compound on top of that. All right, now finally, let's get to the player that I think can win or lose this game for the New Orleans Saints, and it's PJ Williams. I think PJ Williams is a huge key in this game. He's expected to step in place of Marcus Williams, as Marcus Williams is unlikely to be able to come off the COVID-19 reserve list in time to make this game. Can he? Possibly. Maybe. I don't know. The NFL's protocols are very unclear. Surprise, surprise. So there's a potential that he could end up getting back onto the field. But if he's not, PJ Williams becomes a huge piece because he would be the guy stepping into his role, with Malcolm Jenkins having already returned for a strong safety role, which PJ played last week. Now, PJ Williams does not have the range of Marcus Williams. Let's not pretend like he does. So I think you're going to see a lot more cover 2 called in this game. Maybe JT Gray hitting the field in some dime packages to help with that. So I think you might see a little bit less single high safety for the Saints, a little bit more middle of the field open, splitting it between 2 to 4, maybe some cover 4 calls there as well. So something to keep an eye out on in terms of how the Saints change. They have played a lot of zone here recently, to where they're, the defenders are defending different areas of the field as opposed to manning up and just guarding, I am better than you, I have to be better than you every snap. So here's what I look at for PJ Williams. Guess who leads the defense in interceptions, or is tied for the lead in defense with interceptions? Yes, that's PJ Williams. He also has a pick 6 on the season. He's tied with Marshawn Lattimore with 3 interceptions. See, want to take the ball away more here. He has the lowest passer rating allowed amongst all targeted defenders for the New Orleans Saints at only 53.2. His depth of target on average is only 6.3. It's because he's been playing a lot in the slot, though, so that's going to end up backing up a bit with him playing further away from the line of scrimmage. But his yards after catch allowed so far this season are only 4.08, so he's doing a good job at tackling at the catch point. However, he has missed 7 tackles this season, the most on the defense, and he has allowed a 76.2% completion percentage when it comes to zone coverage, only 1 interception, one of his 3, and a 71.1 passer rating allowed in zone coverage. So that's a big jump from the 53.2 in terms of all of his coverage snaps, right? So something to keep an eye out on there, because if he's playing free safety, he's going to be asked to play zone a lot. But he has done well in this role before. Couple of years ago, he had to step in and play this role against the Tennessee Titans and did extremely well. That was kind of when you saw that and went, all right, the Saints are going to continue to bring this guy back because he's sort of resurrecting his career as a safety now. So here's another opportunity for him. So far this season, he's played 150 snaps at free safety. That's the 3rd most behind, of course, Marcus Williams, as well as Malcolm Jenkins. So with all of that, he has the experience. He has seen the field from that perspective several times this season. This isn't going to be a huge change for him or anything like that. The Saints have prepared him for this, and this might be a good look at what the New Orleans Saints may have to do in terms of if they lose Marcus Williams over the course of the offseason, right? Is PJ Williams good enough for you to be able to say, okay, if we have to work extremely hard, he should be priority number 1 to keep him in the building, but is PJ Williams good enough to step into that role so that you don't have to go out and, try to get a big ticket free agent or, spend early draft capital, or will you need to do that? So this is a big opportunity for PJ Williams to potentially prove something about his future with the New Orleans Saints. But I think he can easily be somebody attacked over the top by Carolina. Expect them to go after him and Paulson Adebo, the young rookie corner, early and often. Sam Darnold, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, these guys are deep threats. They like to go deep. Expect to see those targets. How PJ Williams handles those moments could potentially change the course of the game in favor or against the New Orleans Saints. All right, family, coming up next, we're going to be joined by Doug Mouton of WWL TV, our good friends over at Channel 4. Doug's going to come through to talk a little bit more about PJ Williams, Marcus Williams. We'll talk about that as well as other players returning to this team and how big their impact is and how that factors into our confidence on Sunday as the Saints close out their home schedule against the Carolina Panthers. We'll have that for you as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints. But first, I want to let you know the line for the New Orleans Saints hosting the Carolina Panthers. That game is now up on betonline.ag, an over-under of only 37.5. So expected to be a very low-scoring game in this one, but a spread of 6.5 in favor of the home team, New Orleans Saints. The Saints, heavy home favorites here. Don't know how you feel about it. I don't know if they cover, but I am expecting them to get a dub here, but I don't know if they cover. So keep an eye out on that line, or if you want to get in on it right now, make sure you head over to betonline.ag today. Check out all the lines across the NFL, the NBA, UFC, MMA, and even your favorite Vegas casino games as well. And I absolutely want to tell you again, do not miss out on the live betting module, some of the most fun that I have over the course of the weekends when the Saints aren't playing is getting in on all the live betting during the game so I can catch the trends as they're developing, all of that. So go and check them out, betonline.ag. And if you're a first-time customer there, don't forget to use the promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, so that you can get a 50% welcome bonus. Yes, you're welcome. That's a 50% welcome bonus with the promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON at betonline, where the game starts. All right, everybody, we are wrapping up today's episode with our WWL Wednesday on a Friday. We got Doug Mouton here at DMouton WWL joining us today. Doug, we know that we've got a lot of players that we're watching come off of that COVID-19 reserve list for the New Orleans Saints. How monumental is it to get some of these players back right now?
Yeah, well, obviously you said it. I mean, it is monumental. That's exactly what it is. I do think Taysom Hill 100% completely changes your hopes on offense. I know the offensive line was horrible Monday night against the Dolphins, and now with the prospects of no Erik McCoy. But I do think Taysom Hill really changes what you do and how you do it on offense and makes teams play you differently. I think getting him back is the biggest change. Obviously, Demario Davis and Quan Alexander, two terrific linebackers. You get the defense back to full strength at a time when the offense is not. So, yeah, the returns help a lot. Losing McCoy obviously hurts.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. The Erik McCoy situation here. The Saints getting a couple more players off the COVID reserve list. They've already sent Marcus Williams, safety. We'll talk about defense a little bit, to that COVID-19 reserve list. Now Erik McCoy on Thursday. So the expectation there might be that Will Clapp potentially could step in at center. Taysom Hill spoke a little bit about him in his Thursday presser.
Yeah, well, it was kind of interesting the way it came out because the NFL daily communication, daily transactions came out literally during Taysom Hill's availability. He's on Zoom, so it's a lot of people at their homes and at their offices, and then that came out, and I'm guessing Taysom Hill didn't know that it was a secret or that it wasn't out. But then as soon as it came out, he got questions about Erik McCoy, and he said, yeah, I worked today a lot with Will Clapp. He actually volunteered the information. As he was saying it, I was thinking, I'm wondering if Sean Payton would not want him to say that, but it was too late. He said it. He said that Will Clapp got most of the snaps at center, which I think you would expect. Will Clapp is the next guy on the interior to play, and it makes sense to leave Cesar Ruiz where it is and Calvin Throckmorton where he is, and to play Clapp at center. I think that's a solid move. And look, a huge part of the problem Monday night was Caleb Benenoch at tackle. You will get at least Jordan Mills back, which is an upgrade. And then obviously if Teron Armstead plays, it's a serious upgrade. So although you lose something by losing McCoy, I think overall the offensive line should be a little bit better because you're going to be getting to upgrade what was your weakest link. Yeah. So, and I think Taysom Hill changes everything because Taysom Hill changes the way defenses have to play you. I am not saying Taysom Hill is or should be the quarterback of the future. I do not believe that he is or that he should be. But I do believe that of the present, with a limited offense that can't do a whole lot, having one of the most dynamic ball carriers in the NFL, and if you're not sure if he is, watch that Giants game again. He is crazy good with the ball, and he's physical, and he changes a mindset, and he makes guys sort of angry and fiery because of the way he plays. I mean, angry in a good way. And so anyway, so I do think he changes the offense enough to where the offense will be a lot better than what we saw Monday night.
Yeah, look, I actually love the word angry when it comes to Taysom Hill because we saw that Giants game from the press box, and when he bounced off of all 11 New York Giants on his way into the end zone, definitely looked angry in the best way there. So you want that back on the field this week for sure. Let's flip it over to the defensive side. We know Marcus Williams right now is on that COVID-19 reserve list. Unlikely that he'll be back before Sunday, but certainly I guess you could say possible considering all the new protocol changes and things like that. But sounds like PJ Williams is going to step into that role, but you gain so many additional pieces over on the defensive side. I think it's reasonable to expect an improvement in the defense, which actually didn't, I feel, underperform against the Dolphins, but still an improvement to be had there.
Right. And the way I would describe it, look, against Tampa Bay, the defense was out of its minds. They were so good. The defense against the Dolphins was good. Now, good is good enough to win in the last 15 years, it's good enough to win 98% of the time.
Yeah.
Good in this case was not good enough to win. They needed to be out of their minds with the offense as bad as it was. So I would say the defense was good, but Jalen Waddle was the best player on the field when he was on the field, and he was literally unstoppable. I thought Miami had some really nice concepts, sometimes running him out of the backfield to get him open. He had 5 catches, 4 first downs, and a touchdown. He was terrific. Defense was good. I definitely think Demario Davis and Quan Alexander will make them better. Not that Pete Werner did anything wrong, but Demario Davis is Demario Davis. I mean, they will be better. Pete Werner will get his snaps. I think PJ Williams has been good enough. Certainly he's not Marcus Williams, but the drop-off isn't huge. I think the secondary's been good. The one thing PJ Williams said today that I wrote down that I found interesting was that they expect, with Sam Darnold quarterbacking, a more traditional offense out of Carolina. And I think a traditional offense, if you can get pressure rushing 4, and if Onyemata, Cam Jordan, and Marcus Davenport play the way they have the last 2 weeks, I think they will. If they can do that, this defense is going to give Carolina a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, not very good under pressure, about a 45 pass rating, 44% completion percentage, only 1 touchdown to 6 interceptions on the season. So you definitely want to get that pressure on him. Now, we talked a little bit about all of this in terms of the Monday night game against Miami. Felt like the New Orleans Saints sort of were up against it as a whole in that one, right? Backs up against the wall in that situation, but it felt like a temporary situation. So seeing them get some of these players back after being 22, 21 players down, 4 coaches down going into that game, is it unwise of me to go into this game with a little bit more confidence? Because I am feeling a little bit more confident about the New Orleans Saints, considering all that they're getting back.
Yeah, no question. And look, Miami was riding a 7-game win streak, right? And Miami's playing for potentially getting the playoffs. 2 weeks ago when they were playing the Jets, I had great confidence because the Jets, I don't want to say they've quit because it's an NFL team and they could still win a game. They won this past week. Right. But yeah, Carolina's a train wreck right now. I mean, Matt Rule may not keep his job past 2 years, which is crazy that so many of these coaches are getting 2 years, and that's it. And then they're out. Matt Rule hasn't really had a quarterback yet. Not a good quarterback. Like he is, but that's the NFL reality. And right now they are scrambling for parts. They're trying to reinvent an offense without Christian McCaffrey, the mediocre quarterback at best. I love the Saints. The Saints are playing for something. They're getting a lot of guys back. Taysom Hill gives them a little bit of juice, which they need. And I love the Saints' chances this week. Atlanta, we'll see. Atlanta's a better team than people in New Orleans probably wish they were. I say they're better. They're an NFL mediocre team.
Right.
They can beat anybody on a good day and lose to anybody. Well, I guess you could say that about anybody. But they're a 500 team. Atlanta is. And I don't think Carolina's their record isn't. Carolina's not a 500 team. Carolina is one of the bottom feeders like the Jets were. And as much confidence as I had against the Jets, even on a losing streak, I have that much confidence again this week, even though that offensive line is scary. I do feel like they'll be able to scratch for enough points.
Yeah, absolutely. The New Orleans Saints need to win out the rest of the season in order to keep their playoff hopes alive. Doug and I feeling pretty good about the Saints' chances of at least getting that started this weekend against the Carolina Panthers. Make sure you follow Doug on Twitter at DMouton WWL. Check him out, of course, as well as the rest of the WWL family over on Channel 4. Doug, appreciate you coming through as always.
Anytime, Ross.
All right, family, once again, a happy new year to you, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Locked On Saints. If there's any big news over the course of the weekend, I will be back, but otherwise, I will see you on Monday in the year 2020. I just want to highlight that we have taken listenership up in this podcast, Locked On Saints podcast, to the highest all time this year, up 41% from last year. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to getting us getting another 41% next season, right? Next year, 2022 is going to be a lot of fun. We do it big over the offseason here on Locked On Saints. So you're going to want to be around for all of that as well as the next season and everything. But just for right now, I just want to say thank you for making this such an enjoyable year in the midst of everything that's been going on around us all. It has been an awesome and incredibly positive, motivating, and healing experience to be able to be here with all of you every Monday through Friday. So thanks so much for making this so special. Thanks so much for making 2021 so special. And here's to 2022. Damn it, get us out of here. All right, I appreciate y'all so much. I will see y'all on Monday at the absolute latest. Don't forget, and thank you as always, making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day. Don't forget to check out your second listen of the day today with Locked On Bets in the year, making some money over with your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. As always, for everything in between when it comes to your New Orleans Saints, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how your mom and them, and trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.